Greetings everyone, Joseph James here from SchoolTrade.com, April 13th, 2010. Welcome to your live trading recap. Had a pretty good day in the room today, guys. Some pretty challenging environment, but once again, patience pays very well for us as School of Trade members. I want to remind you guys quickly here, 3 important links. We have 3 important links. If you're watching the video on the YouTube page right now, first link is for our track record, second link is for our free trial, and the third link is for our blog. So make sure you guys check out that blog. On the blog, there is a ton of useful information there, guys, so make sure you guys check out the blog there as well. And don't forget, if you guys haven't come out and joined our free trial yet, sign up for the free trial, 3 weeks, absolutely no obligation at all. Let's see here, 2, 4, 5 total trades. As you can see, we started off the day, scratch, small winner, loss, so we weren't having much of a good day here until about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and all of a sudden we started seeing the price action really pick up speed. And once again, that's what I mean by patience paid very well here. So we got 80 ticks in this week so far. We've got 397 ticks in for the month so far, just shy of $4,000 for the month of April, and we are just now below $30,000 here for the year 2010 so far. We'll keep you guys posted rest of the month. What's the most important thing that happened today? Well, it was kind of a strangely, that's supposed to say strangely right there. Obviously, I'm not an English teacher, right? It was kind of a strangely or oddly slow day today. We had kind of a weird mixture in the market this morning of lots of patterns, but very indecisive price movement, right? It felt like price was moving all over the place, but nobody really had any idea of where it wanted to go. Now, of course, we have the tax day here in the U.S. is the 15th of the month, so that's later on this week. That could be a concern. And we really learned today that patience pays well. I think the most important thing today we learned was the patience pays well. Sometimes we got to wait some time, right? We got to wait a little while before those trades really start working for us. Guys, the early trades were very inconsistent. But late in the day, again, we kind of sticking with this odd price action we saw today. Late in the day today, we actually saw the average to range begin to drop. We saw the speed begin to drop. And whether or not that gave us kind of the sweet spot for our trades, but all of a sudden the moves improved. So it was kind of very odd how the price action looked today. And as always, we watched the dollar and the first move of the day to kind of give us a little bit more feedback for the market when we got started. So here's the dollar. Of course, in the dollar here, you can see coming in from yesterday, right? We had yesterday, of course, you can see here we had the that sideways range from yesterday. Right, so big sideways range from yesterday, and of course with that sideways range, we continued that today. So the price action this morning, as you can see here, was trading in this sideways range here. And of course that sideways range, we got to be careful when we break to the downside, got to be careful when we break to the upside, because wherever it starts to break out of that range, that's where we expect things to get pretty rough around the edges on everything else. There's a couple times today here, just before 10 o'clock and towards the 11 o'clock hour, where we were trying to break to the downside, you can see here. Right, trying to break the downside there, and then trying to break obviously the upside here. These were both obviously very important times, because when it tries to break to the upside or the downside on the dollar, we expect things to get pretty rocky out there. So around those times, we had to be careful. Everything else though looked pretty good. Okay, dollar very sideways though, so we knew we'd have to wait for the dollar here. Whenever we see the dollar going sideways, we always know the rest of the markets are expected to go sideways as well. So the dollar told us a very valuable story here right out the gate. Then of course next up here you have first move of the day. Before we had a chance to really look at the first move of the day here, we noticed right away here on the euro. Now you'll notice, guys, here on the euro here, we've got multiple time frames, right? Here's my fast time frame here. Here's my slower time frames on the right. And you'll notice we've got flat trigger lines on everything. See that, guys? Every time frame, all the way down to the green and the blue background charts here in the upper right-hand corner, even they had flat. And you'll notice here, 93s, 88s, 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 94s. Basically, every trigger line was flat, and every trigger line was the same price level. Now that tells us a very valuable story here. It tells us no matter what time frame you're looking at, you've got sideways, choppy, right? No trend involved. So without the trend, we want to wait patiently to see that trend develop. Let's now look at another example we saw today on the gold futures. Now in this example here, I wanted to show you guys just how difficult it can be sometimes. Trading a market like today, we saw a very slow, choppy volume for most of the morning here. Until about 10:30, we really didn't have very much going on this morning. And this is a good example here at the low of day here on the gold. We see how we're trading down towards the low of the day here. And as we're breaking the low of day, right, here's your low of day right there. So as we're coming down to the low of day, I want you guys to focus on this real quick. You can see here, there's this low right here, and there's this low right here. Okay, now these made, of course, 2 new tick lows, right? basically two tick new lows. So rather than coming down and forcing a big break below those lows, all it was able to do was simply make those 1 or 2 tick new lower lows. Now guys, this is a great example of exactly what the whole entire market was doing today. We talked about this lack of confidence in the market today. We talked about this lack of indecision, or this lack of conviction. It felt like today that the market was simply had nobody out there knew where it wanted to go. And we use the analogy, right, of the little kid and the bully, right? And this may not be the best analogy, right? But the bully, right, as picks on the little kid. So the little kid musters up all the courage possible, right? Finds a way to go to that bully, punches the bully in the stomach, and then just as fast he disappears, right? So he just gets that one shot in and then leaves, right? So basically, the bully's left there, right, curling over in pain, while the little kid is going to take off, right, and find shelter. Well, what happened is right, the same thing happened in the market. We've got these lows being here. And so what's happening is the sellers are coming down and testing those lows, but because today something was in the water out there, there wasn't enough conviction in the market today, we saw those 1 or 2 tick new lower lows. So the sellers come down, right? The sellers are all big and tough. We're going to push this thing down. But by the time they get to those lows, they've run out of sellers, they've run out of momentum, they've run out of conviction. And so instead of breaking that low and then continuing to push it down, they don't have conviction, they don't have confidence. So they just break that low just a little bit and then they back off, right? And see, okay, anybody else here want to trade with us? Okay, try it again, right? New lower low and then back off, right? They're very hesitant to keep pushing that trade down. That again is a sign of indecision, right? That lack of confidence. Now look at the pace of the tape indicator here, and this is one way to spot that on your charts. You'll see here, guys, in the bottom, got your lower lows up top here, but down the bottom here, you'll see we've got a couple examples here. The red pace of the tape here, that shows that lack of confidence. As it comes down, trickles to the low of day, no one really is jumping to the sell side. Okay, so it's got very slow speed of the tape. Then we get to those lows, and again, they give it that one shot to the downside, right? And there's that one shot right here. Okay, there's that green spike, right? Goes from very slow, and then all of a sudden, bam, yellow to green, and then watch what happens afterwards. It then slows right back down to red. So basically what this tells us is that we have, of course, coming down, testing those lows. There's not a lot of decision making going on. There's not a lot of confidence at these lows. And what do we see? We see just a little bit of a push down, and then just as quickly as it pushed down, they back off, right? Because they're scared to death. They may have made the wrong decision. So look at that in the pace of the tape. That basically sums up the entire market this morning. Lack of conviction, lack of decisiveness. Nobody really wanted to go in and put their money where their mouth was. And because of that, we saw a lot of partial moves. We saw a lot of patterns setting up, but patterns that never executed according to our rules. And because of that, again, this is a symptom of a greater problem. The problem being that low volume environment right now we're seeing in these markets. We really can't be sure why it's happening, but we do know is that low volume is causing indecisive moves, which results in a lot of these choppy 1 or 2 tick new lows, 1 or 2 tick new highs. So of course, for all you breakout traders, how do we respond to this? We trade with reversal patterns. And let's take a look, guys, at the first reversal pattern we took today here. It was on the Euro futures. It didn't work out to be a winner for us, but it was a good first trade here.